I've seen people who earn more than 1.5 CR per year. Remote, not even a question.
Do you also want a remote job in 2024? Well, this video has all the answers. This is Sumit. He got a remote job by contributing to an open source community, and in this video, we talked about everything: how to find a community.
If you're in a tech stack, you'll be plugged in into the ecosystem of that tech stack. For example, WebDev has a really thriving community on Twitter, and that's how I found most of the companies.
How to make your first open source contribution.
So start with something that you already use, that you know. The easiest way to get started with open source is contributing to documentation.
How to ask for a job and what's the interview like.
I had a list of companies that I wanted to go to for job.
We even talked about how the offers are structured for remote work, and needless to say, the perks of a remote job.
There's no time requirement. You're supposed to work when you feel like it.
So what are you waiting for? Like the video and let's get started. Awesome. Hey Sumit, how are you, man?
Hey Sanskar, I'm good. Happy New Year. How are you?
Happy New Year to you too, bro. Awesome. Before we begin, can you please give the audience an idea about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Okay, so I am a developer advocate. I've been working in this role since close to an year now. I started working last year. It's been more than a year. Before that, I have been freelancing since the second year undergrad. So that's like 2017. I graduated in 2020. And I didn't intend to join any company or go for a job. I was happy in my freelancing career, but
Hmm.
with like online exposure and other things that I'll talk about during the course of this talk, I got to know about this devrel role, which I felt aligned really well with my skills. So here I am.
Okay. So, is there a relation between freelancing and developer advocacy? Why did you choose it as a job?
Okay, there's no direct link between the two.
Mhm.
I started
Right.
freelancing very platform specific based. Like I picked a couple of platforms and I used to get my clients on those platforms only. But during the course of evolution in the months afterwards, I started seeing people get a lot of clients from websites like LinkedIn, like Twitter, and Twitter was one platform that I was
Right.
slightly active on earlier. So I chose Twitter to, focus on and see what this fuzz was about. And in that time, I came across people creating content, people, getting jobs through Twitter. So I was like, okay, this is unconventional,
Right.
and that part attracted me to it.
You mentioned you wanted to freelance and didn't want to do a job, right? Abhi, right now, in 20 years of age, currently, all over the globe, people are like, they want to build their own businesses, they want to do entrepreneurship, solopreneurship, freelancing. So, what made you change your mind? Ki you took a job as a developer advocate. I mean, is this job different to a conventional job? What about this
Okay,
attracted
it's
you?
a really good question. And I'll share my thought process behind why I chose this as a career after having decided that I don't want to, do a conventional job. So the thinking with
Right.
which I started freelancing was I'll start freelancing and 2 years, 3 years down the line, I'll own my own agency, have people working for me, and then I'll think of some product and see
Right.
how it goes. With developer advocate, you
Hmm.
get to see the journey firsthand. Like the CEO is in the driver's seat, you are in the cockpit at best, and you get to see the entire
Okay.
evolution of the product itself, as well as how the company is getting clients, how they are taking care of their existing clients, and you get to see the journey of a product from a garage to an actual enterprise product. And that part
Right.
really attracted me because
Right.
5 years, 10 years down the line, if I want to build my own product, I need to have this understanding. Okay, how to scale a product, how to hire a team, how do I ensure that there is a very it's a very niche term, but there is this term called product market fit. So how do I ensure that it is there in the product
Right.
and things like that? So this part really attracted me to developer advocacy. This role is very community focused. You have to interact with a lot of people, even more than what you would in an otherwise conventional career. And that, to my surprise, has been one of the best parts.
So, for someone to be a developer advocate, do they need to be an extrovert or good at communication also?
No, you need to be good at communication, yes, but you don't need to be an outright extrovert. I'm very introverted. I'm very shy in real life, which is surprising for most people. Most people who know me from internet, at least. So you don't need to be introverted. You
Hmm.
don't need to be extroverted for sure. But communication skills need to be there because your job is to explain things to people in a very rudimentary sense. This is your job, the core of your job.
Right.
So if you are not good at communicating, I think that can potentially be problematic. But I don't know. In my experience, yes, I think you should have good communication skills.
Yeah. So what is your job? I mean, how does your day look like as a developer
Okay,
advocate?
so again, a great question. So in developer advocacy, we have a saying that no two developer advocates are the same because different companies have different needs and they
Hmm.
use developer professionals. Developer professionals are people. It's sort of a superset of developer advocacy, but I use both terms interchangeably.
Hmm.
So companies use developer professionals differently depending on their needs. In my company, we have like the developer team is very closely aligned with engineering. In some other company, development team can be very
Okay.
closely aligned with marketing. In some other, in yet some other companies, it can exist
Okay.
as an independent department. So in my company, we are very closely aligned with engineering,
Right.
and there is some transition happening right now. But so far, my primary job is to so when engineering team creates some new features, implements some new features, we are supposed to go there, test it. We are like one of the first people to get our hands dirty with those features. We are supposed to play with it,
Okay.
find bugs in it. We are supposed to explain it to a completely
Hmm.
novice person. Even for clients in the business side of things, we are supposed to build demo apps that showcase how our product can be used with the problem that they are facing. I have currently developed in my short stint. I've only worked as developer advocate for I think 10 months now. I started back in April, but in these many months
Right.
only, I've built several demo apps. One of which was very crucial in getting the clients onboarded to our company. So that I think consider a huge win for me
Right.
personally.
So when you say that it depends from company to company, how can a student prepare himself or herself for this particular role? I mean, is coding required? What is required to actually get this job?
Okay, another misconception that people have for DevRel roles is that there's no coding required. You just need to conferences and talk to people, and that is one part of the job. Yes, but in a tech role you can't move away from coding. If you are not good at coding,
Right.
forget a tech role. So this misconception does
Okay.
not need to be there for young people. But how does one prepare for a DevRel role? I think there are a couple of traits that you need to have. And if you are able to showcase that I possess all these skills, no matter which company is
Right.
seeking a DevRel professional, they may use only two or three of your abilities. But if you're good at like five, six, seven abilities, they'll mold you into what they think is a good fit. So we talked earlier about
Hmm.
communication skill. That is obviously a big factor. Other thing that I consider really crucial for a developer role is the ability to write really well. Like with AI coming in, people think that okay, writing is done.
Okay.
AI can write for us, but it's a flaw
Right.
in my opinion. That's not how I think. I think you should have the like. Let's see how companies look at developer professionals. So as a developer, you'll be expected to hold hand of someone who is new to the technology that your company is producing, and you basically get to
Okay.
hold their hand and walk them through the entire journey. Like it's called onboarding. You're supposed to onboard a customer to your company, introduce them to the product, introduce them to how you various vocabulary that may exist around the product, and you're supposed to
Right.
make them want to use your product. You're not supposed to sell them. Like you're not supposed to say, "Hey,
Hmm.
XYZ, we build a
Right.
product so and so, and you're supposed to use it because it's really cool." That is not going to work. You're supposed to make them
Hmm.
want to use your product because, and it should be natural. You're not selling them something. It's a good fit for the problem that they are facing.
Right. So how did you get your job? I mean, what was the process like?
So I have a list. I had a list of companies that I wanted to go to for job, and one of those companies posted a job description for a senior developer advocate, and I did not have any job experience back then. So I reached out to the founder
Right.
saying, I am so and so," described all of my skills, and
Hmm.
then told him that I'd love to get on a meet to discuss things further. The founder, being really kind, invited me
Right.
to a meet, and then we discussed things. And I
Hmm.
pitched myself basically in that call and asked him if I could be considered for the role that they posted online. And he told me like, "Hey, it's a senior role. You're fit for junior to mid-level role at best. So I can't consider you for
Right.
that role right now." And it broke my heart a little, to be honest. But in the end of the call, he suggested that I talk to the current growth manager in the company, Neva David. Big shout out to him. So I
Hmm.
reached out to him. I organized another meet with him, and he really liked my profile. He thought I could be of use to him. So I had another call with the founder back again, and he told me, "Okay, there is no role
Right.
called growth engineer existing in our company, but we are creating this role just for you. And once you switch
Hmm.
jobs or move to a different position, there will be no growth engineer. So this is a role being created just for you. I was like, okay, what do I?
Right.
Because I was apprehensive about it, to be honest, because I was focused on getting a developer role, and growth engineer has some overlap
Right.
with what a developer is supposed to do, but it's not exactly the same thing. So I asked him, and he told me that you should work for the growth engineer role currently, and in time, once a senior developer gets hired, maybe he or she will need another developer advocate. And at that point in time, you can be considered for the role. I was like, okay, anyway, I'm getting a job, and it will be a good learning experience. So I joined in. Then the senior developer joined in, and he had another several rounds of interview. He got me. He had an assessment task for me. I was under assessment for I think 2 weeks, and then that got over. He really liked me. He really liked what I was doing. So I had one final HRish round, and he asked me. This was 2 in the morning, by the way. So I got a message from him. That message from him at 2 in the morning, and he asked me, "Can you jump on a call?" I was like, "Okay." So I switched on the lights in my room, jumped on a call with him, and the first thing he says is, "Would you like to work for us?" I'm like, "Okay, yeah." And so that got done. The contract came in.
Awesome. So, what was the interview process like? I mean, what were you asked? What was all the discussions about in the interview?
Okay, so for devrel, the assessment period was broken into several chunks. One of which was like there were two, three factors. As far as I can remember, there was one. So the role was divided into three parts. One is content creation, one was community focused tasks, and one was coding and how well you know Novo. So our product is notifications infrastructure. We are a notifications infrastructure company. We provide you infrastructure for you to embed notifications in your product. We have various channels like WhatsApp, other chat players like MS Teams and Discord, Slack, to emails, to SMSs, to like in-app notifications. And he asked me to build a product using Novo. I had to showcase like there were specifics on it, which I don't want to get into. There were like multiple specific features that I was supposed to implement and write about the product, how it solves a problem, how basically a tutorial on how to integrate Novo into XYZ. And I implemented all those
Right.
features. I implemented a couple of features from my own end because I really thought like that would complete the product and make it a real world. I was not going for some project. It was supposed to be a product that can potentially be used by someone in the real life. So I implemented a couple of
Right.
additional features, and that part really impressed my to be manager. And I wrote an article about it. Beyond that, I was supposed to be really active in the community, help with support queries and people struggling with Novo. I was also active in the Novo community for I think 4 or 5 months before I got this
Okay.
opportunity. So I already had that presence. I already had that social media presence, and these two tasks were relatively easy. So three things in particular. One was
Right.
coding the app. One was writing about it. One was helping with support queries. That was it.
Earlier, you mentioned that you already had a good online presence on Twitter. You were creating content. So let's talk about someone who is starting their uh, tech journey, coming into first year of college, and they see these influencers talking about learning in
Hmm.
public. So they want to create content. Now, tell me, how can they create content? Like, let's plan their content for 3 months. Let's suppose they are learning a particular tech stack, a particular language. Take any language you like, Java, JavaScript, whatever you like, and let's plan their 3 months of content. Like, what can they put
Okay.
out? Blogs, tweets, what can they put out? And yeah.
Excellent question. So my suggestion to
Right.
them would be to simply focus on studying and knowing a topic really, really well. See, content creation is secondary. Once you know a topic really well, and once you have that ability to
Correct.
rely on your knowledge base to explain a topic to it, content creation takes care of itself. It's not easy. It's not, it's not a 5 minute thing. You'll need to devote time to it. But instead of focusing on content creation,
Right.
people, in my opinion, should focus first on knowing something. Once you know it, content creation is easy. You can start with maybe one article a week or one article a month and just explain what you've learned. See, when you're learning new things, people, the tendency to think is that I don't know anything. How can I create content around anything if I'm so new to it? And that is a
Hmm.
wrong approach because you have a
Right.
fresh set of eyes, which can be tremendously beneficial to people. So you can be talking about, say, take JavaScript. One of the most misunderstood topic in JavaScript is promises. So you can, read about it, study about it, implement in various projects, and really first focus on knowing it really well, and then once you start creating content about it, you can focus on things that you struggle with, because chances are that if you struggle with it, there are other people who are struggling with as well. So once you are able to
Mm, right.
be in a position when you have played around with the technology a bit, and then you create content around it and mention in that content piece that this is the common problem that people face, and the way I navigated my way around this was doing X, Y, and Z. That I think is a good kind of content.
Mhm. Right.
And
Also, what do you feel is the right language? I mean, there's no correct answer to it, but in your opinion, what is the right language for someone to start with if they want to explore developer advocacy roles?
so I don't suggest you to aim for a language with the mindset, okay, if I learn this language, I'll have the opportunity to work for XYZ company. That is a wrong approach. You should, if you're learning phase, if you're new in college, you should focusing on honing on fundamentals really, really well. And once you're done with that, focus on the thing that excites you. So for a lot of people, that would be web development because they want to build projects. For a lot of people, it could be artificial intelligence or machine learning. For someone, it could be IoT. And good companies exist in all these tech domains. There's not a shortage of companies, there's a shortage of talent. So if you're good at what you do, you'll find a company that you can work for easily.
So, is there also a difference in how these companies compensate you? I mean, any particular tech stack is highly demanded in today's time?
I feel the with machine learning and AI companies, you have a chance to be paid slightly more. But and it was the same
Hmm.
for Web3 companies just a few short months ago. But again, I feel like if you're new into your career, optimizing for high pay is the wrong approach. You should optimize for learning. The first
Hmm.
five,
Right.
6 years, you should just keep learning and learning and learning. And once you're able to see things from a bird's eye point of view, then you can focus on the earning part. I have a saying that says, learn more to earn more. And it sounds cliched, but it is true, right? If you learn more, you will earn more at some point in time.
True that. True. Bro, you mentioned earlier that you were a part of the Novo community before applying for the developer advocacy role. Now, tell me that how a new student, a beginner involved in a community can make their presence felt because they often feel that I'm new here, I have no experience, so what can I contribute? So, what were your contributions like, and how can someone starting
Okay,
contribute?
so if the product excites you, if the problem that they are solving excites you, just get involved in the community, keep onboarding new members, keep solving support page. See, what will happen? Let's take example of VS Code. Say Microsoft is a new company and they have
Hmm.
their product,
Right.
code editor, VS Code, and you're really good at it because you like using VS Code. So what you can do is that there will come a lot of people who will be struggling with some of the things, and you would sometimes be in a position to help them because you would have faced those problems in your own journey.
Right.
So that is one place where you can contribute. The other place you can contribute is obviously Hacktoberfest, and if the company is open source, you can go through the issues and make a new PR there itself. Or if you're established in the community, you can onboard new contributors on their GitHub or GitLab or whatever, and repo that they host. Other place for contribution is in content creation. You can write about your experience. Again, this ties into the hand holding part. So you would be writing with the intention of helping somebody who's coming to the company for the first time. You would be in a
Right.
position to hold their hands and walk them through their journey. You can create an article, you can create a video, or you can also post a Twitter space, maybe create a tutorial of some kind. These are the places you can contribute. And apart from all this, these are for people who want to make significant contributions. Apart from all that, you can always rely on greeting new members, making sure that people are onboarding, maybe making sure that there's some activity happening on their social handles, on their Discord
Right.
community or Slack community or whatever.
Also, how did you come across Novo? Because many people also ask this question: ki, how do I find communities of my particular tech stack?
I came across Novo strictly through Twitter, but if you want to find companies around your tech stack, I think it's fairly simple. Like if you're in a tech stack, you'll be plugged in into the ecosystem of that tech stack. For example, WebDev has a really thriving community on Twitter, and that's how I found most of the companies. For AI and ML, it could be HackerRank. I'm not sure. I'm just putting it out there. It could be HackerRank. It could be Reddit.
Right.
If
Right.
you're plugged into an ecosystem, you would know where the developers of that particular tech stack hang out. And if you're hanging out there with them, you'll find these very easily.
Makes sense. Also, if someone's starting out, like let's say they're in their second, third year of college, so the fixation for them is to join a FANG company and get a decent high paying job, right? But when we talk about a remote job, when we talk about a developer advocacy role, so do they pay in a similar range? Like students, what can they expect if they are starting out? They have no experience, starting out in a junior role. So what can they expect as a compensation?
So like the range is very wide. So it the on the lower end it's less than
Hmm.
Fang. On the
Correct.
higher end it's substantially more than Fang. And it could be like I've seen people who earn 17, 18 lakhs per year for remote roles. I've seen people who earn
Okay.
more than 1.5 CR per year, and it's a very wide range, like I suggested. And again, this brings
Right.
to this brings me to the point that I discussed earlier that as a newcomer you should not be optimizing for salary. Salary is one part, and in remote
Hmm.
role, you
Correct.
typically will have enough money to take care of you and all your expenses. So salary part will be taken care of. You should be focusing on learning and establishing yourself and having a really good profile 2 years, 3 years down the line.
Are there any downsides to working remotely, Sumit?
Yes. Again, a great question. So, I remember talking to people. You've interviewed Saurav, I think, and in my talk to
Yeah.
him, one of the first questions I had asked him is like, "How do you handle loneliness?" Because I had anticipated that loneliness would be an issue, and yes, it is. It's a big issue. So you'd see people who are in remote roles traveling a lot, meeting people a lot, being active in community, and it sounds very glamorous, and it is for the most part, but the
Right.
loneliness aspect of it cannot be overstated. You will be having very little social life. You'll be, a guy in the room or a girl in the
Hmm.
room for most of your working hours, and there is flexibility. I feel like there's pros and cons to both remote roles as well as in office roles. Like the
Mm-hmm.
loneliness problem is there,
Correct.
but you can, take measures to diminish how it affects you. You can go to a co-working space. You can't replicate an office environment, obviously, but you can,
Right.
like I said, go to co-working spaces. And if the company is good enough, like my company already has several measures to ensure that employee-to-employee bonding is really great. Great. So we have game nights. We have,
Okay.
just coffee chats. We have incentives to
Right.
do coffee chats one-on-one as a team, and we have provisions for a
Okay.
lot of things to diminish those aspects. So pros and cons.
But with the perks, what would you choose in today's time if you were given a choice, a remote job or a job in a fan company, let's say?
Remote, not even a question. Hands down, remote.
So, so now here's the question, right? You mentioned, Abhi, that there are these drawbacks. You are lonely, but you are still choosing a remote job. Now, I have had this conversation with many folks. They tell me that remote jobs have their own
Yeah.
perks, but no one mentions them. Yeah, I mean, they're just hanging over on the surface level. No one mentions them exactly. What are those perks? So, can you do that? I mean,
Okay. Two perks that I'm really excited about at my company is like annually we have an offsite where the
yes.
entire company comes to a location and we just have 2 weeks of fun and working together and talking and sharing things together. The last
Hmm.
offsite was supposed to happen in
Right.
Portugal, but like there are three employees from India. All of our visas were for some reason not granted. So we had our own mini offsite in
Okay.
Dubai. So I spent 2 weeks in Dubai while the rest of the team was away in Portugal. We have another offsite coming in, I think, in 5, 6 months from now. And apart from the company offsite, we have a provision for team offsite. So the devrel team would go on, just the devrel professionals and their manager. The entire devrel team will go on to an offsite. The
Okay.
engineering team will go to another offsite. Apart from these two offsites, we have provision for like in India offsite. So all the three employees from India, all three of us are in different departments, and we can organize an offsite for us together. Like I had an offsite with one of the members just I think 3 weeks ago. Apart from travel, there's
Okay.
a really good incentive around making sure that your home office is the way you want it to be. So we have budget allocations for desks, for monitors, for keyboard, mouses, anything that you can think of.
Right.
And
Okay.
and the company pampers you a lot. We have free pizzas every now and then. There's no time requirement, so there's no like you have to be in office on PM or XAM. You're supposed to work. It's a very async environment. You're supposed to work when you feel like it. Just ensure that you're in the meetings. So apart from meetings, there's no strict time foundation. Sometimes I work at 11 in the morning. Sometimes I start working at 11 in the morning. Sometimes I start working at 2 in the morning. Well, really late night. So though that I think is really good. You can manage your day around situations.
Awesome. So, would you suggest a new beginner in tech to get a remote job, remote internship?
See, you learn by being around smart people in a real office environment. If you have a problem, you can just walk to their
Correct.
desk and have your query solved in like just a couple of short minutes. But in remote setting, replicating that is difficult. Obviously, you can have measures around it. Like we have you heard of Gather? It's a software that simulates real life office with like cartoony characters.
Hmm.
So we have
Yes.
some version of that, and it to an extent does make a difference, but it's not the same thing, right?
Correct. Makes sense. Acha, how can someone, a beginner, get started with open source, be involved with communities? I mean, what's a best way to start?
So start with something that you already use, that you know a problem exists, and even if a problem doesn't exist, you can go through the documentation. One of the easiest way to get started with open source is contributing to documentation. If you want to know more, I have a thread
Correct.
pinned to my Twitter profile. You can check that. If you are not sure, even after this, just say you're good at HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You can filter issues by these technologies. And then, like, if you know JavaScript, you'll get to know what the
Right.
issue is. You can solve that. Like, one of the first contributions I did was a CSS fix. So, there was a mapping utility. I think they displayed in browser maps, like real life maps. And it had some issue with
Mm-hmm.
CSS. And that was one of my first contributions. So, start small and make it big.
Now you mentioned your first contribution. Abhi, tell me ki when you started learning HTML, CSS to then trying out open source, उसके बीच में time कितना था? And I mean, was it a big learning curve for you to go into open source, or it was
In
normal?
terms of technological know-how, it's not a strict requirement that you spend 2 years for with a technology and then only you can contribute. You can start like when I started, I had
Correct.
been with CSS for like 1 year, one year and a little more than 1 year. But I never thought that I'd contribute with CSS. I was using one of those sites that you know filtered projects by technology, and I saw an issue and I felt like I could contribute, and within a couple of hours and I contributed. And even one other side effect that I'd like to mention here is that people think that by contributing to open source you are just showcasing how good at coding you are, and yes, that is true. But beyond that, you are also getting a chance to collaborate with people who have been working in the industry for decades and years and years, and that has an effect, which is that if you go for the say me and you are applying for a company, you have contributed to open source, I have not. If somebody is hiring, he or she knows that Sanskar has contributed to open source. He knows how to communicate with his
Correct.
superiors. He knows how to collaborate with other people. Basically, he has an experience working with people without actually having worked with
Right.
people. I don't have that experience. So for a company, Sanskar would any day be
Right.
a better bet than me, even if we have the same skill set. That I think is an understated
Correct.
achievement that you can derive out of open source.
Correct. Awesome. Thank you so much, Sumit, for joining the conversation. I loved it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful talking to you.